the Sergeant of Arms role, I mean, it's really it's not a difficult role, but it's a very, very important role. And, you're the person that really, is responsible for making sure that meeting runs smoothly by making sure that you have everything, all the supplies, everything that's needed. If you're virtual, getting Zoom set up. If you are a hybrid, like I am. So we'll go into some more stuff, as we progress throughout our meeting. I'm going to present right now the Sergeant of Arms presentation here. Do you guys see the slideshow? Okay. So congrats again on your new roles. And again, your job is to make sure these meetings run smoothly, and it will get easier as time progresses if you're brand new at the role. And again, it's our job to make sure that this meeting, runs successfully. Our agenda, we're going to talk about the Sergeant of Arms role, the responsibilities, as well as the resources that are available to us as Sergeant of Arms. And the objectives of this session here today, our hope is that you're going to be able to identify your role within the club, fulfill your responsibilities within the club, also the club executive committee or your board, also to find resources that will help you fulfill your responsibilities as a Sergeant of Arms. So I'm going to talk about, that Sergeant of Arms role. I put in the chat, guys, item 1310, the club leadership handbook. Do you see that in the chat? So that will actually, I would download that and say that there's a lot of resources in there. There's every, club officer role within that leadership, book. So, print it, save it, or save that someplace. But it has additional details about your role as Sergeant of Arms or any other officer role in addition to. So I want to ask you guys a question here. What would you say the essence of the Sergeant of Arms role is?
To make the meeting run smoothly with all the equipment and supplies that are necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, my friend. Is there anything else?
To make newcomers feel welcome.
Yep, that is certainly one of the duties for sure. Yes. Throughout this session, you're going to pretty much learn how to make this manageable. And, it may seem overwhelming with all the different, responsibilities that you have as a Sergeant of Arms, but, it is a pretty easy role. And also, it gives you more stage time, especially when you're opening your meeting up. So you're going to be in front of the meeting every single meeting when you're opening your meeting up. So that's for you, Triana, it's a great role because you're going to get that stage time, and it's just amazing to have that. And it's going to make your speeches easier. What are the responsibilities of the Sergeant of Arms? And Jack, you actually mentioned this, tend to club properties, coordinate the meetings. Are there any other responsibilities?
You have all the applications, basically all the tools to be able to run the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. How do you guys, David, you mentioned you were a Sergeant of Arms once before here.
Yes.
How do you keep your club property? Do you keep it in like a tote or what, how do you organize everything?
So I inherited a cart that we keep we keep the flag, we keep all the applications, we keep our banner. We have if we have to travel from one meeting room to another, we have our club has a designated meeting place, and we already have a podium. But if for some reason that room gets taken by our executives, we have a traveling podium. We have a folding podium that we take with us, and then we have the flag, which is printed up just in case we can't. So we have backup supplies. And then we also have applications. We have, I have all the checklists, all the roles, responsibilities for the meeting. So it's primarily my responsibility to get there ahead of everybody else, get the room set up, make sure that everything is ready. So when the other officers show up, they're responsible for their introductions, making sure that guests are taken care of. I make sure the room is ready to go.
Great. And actually, you're actually were covering a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be covering later on. So
Sorry.
but no, that's okay, because I don't know about you guys. I learned by repetition. So I'm going to be covering some of this stuff anyway. And so you're right about all those things. And within our tote, we have a laptop. We have our cords for our Zoom, for our meetings. We have microphones. We've got the lights. We have our lectern as well. The judging, the timing forms, the ballots, everything. And it's just also the sign-in book. We have a VP membership, pack. We have everything in there, and it works out pretty awesome. So your guys' role as a Sergeant of Arms, as stated in the club constitution and the standard bylaws at Toastmasters International, is this: the Sergeant of Arms is responsible for club property management, meeting room preparation, and hospitality. The Sergeant of Arms chairs also the social and reception committees. The Constitution provides a definition, yet there are many responsibilities that make up your day-to-day activities as a Sergeant of Arms. Everything you do is there to support, that club mission. It's there to make sure the club meetings run smoothly. The executive committee, meetings run smoothly. And so I'm going to, and again, so we're talking about that Sergeant of Arms role. Let's talk about the club mission, for instance. The club mission is this: we provide a supportive and positive learning experience which members are empowered to develop communication, leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And so let's, just talk about, how being a Sergeant of Arms can support that club mission. And so what are some things that, the Sergeant of Arms could do to, support that club mission? Any volunteers? It's all about, setting up the meeting space, as David had mentioned beforehand. If you are meeting in a restaurant, it's you're probably gonna have to move tables around, things like that. And so, make sure that you get to that meeting. You mentioned 30 minutes earlier. I get there between 45 to 50 minutes earlier, because we're setting up Zoom, and with technology, you never know. With all the moving pieces, you just never know when something's going to happen. I mean, there's times when, we get there and the internet's down, and thank gosh, the restaurant right next to it had, another Wi-Fi. So it's all about planning. And so before the meeting, we always have our backup plan.
You also have to coordinate the speeches as well. You also have to make sure if there's a presentation that it's loaded and ready to go. Making sure that
coordinating with your speakers, or if they've got a PowerPoint presentation, or they need to utilize the technology. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do. And and with that being said, if you have a virtual meeting and you decide to move over to hybrid, running the Zoom meeting and the in-person meeting as a Sergeant of Arms, how difficult that could be? if you got to be the Zoom master as well as the sergeant of arms within, the meeting, I mean, it's a lot of work. So, what I would suggest, 3 things, and maybe, think about, utilizing one of these. So, it's always great to have a successor. So think about somebody within the club that, is going to, take that role once your term, has completed, and have them assist you within the room duties if you want to do the Zoom, or vice versa. Appoint a Zoom master, somebody that, can, assist, just handle all the Zoom, handle the meeting room, let the members in, manage, the chats, all those different things. Or C, you just have your other members help. So, if you're doing a hybrid meeting like that, it's important to, be able to devote, the time to your Zoomers or whatever platform you're using, in addition to your in-person, your in-room members and guests. So, those are all great things. And, again, let's talk about, the different responsibilities and tools that you can use to fulfill the role. There are, again, David, you already mentioned a lot of the responsibilities about the club meeting. And so we're going to talk about, again, we already touched on those, but again, repetition, I think it's great. We're going to talk about, the responsibilities of a sergeant of arms outside of the club meeting, as well as the executive committee. So let's talk about, again, talking about those club responsibilities. I've got slides for these things. So we're going to talk about your responsibilities, 4 different types. So you've got before the club meetings, upon arrival at the club meetings, as well as during the club meetings and afterwards. It is our job to, confirm the room reservation. If you are meeting at a restaurant, try to, reserve that, 2-3 days before. I mean, even sooner than that. I mean, I would say even a week. I mean, things are starting, with everything starting to open up now, guys, there's been times when we already been bumps. And so it's just very, very important to make sure that if you can book them, as far out in advance as possible, that'd be great. Make sure that, you've got, ballots, that are good for for voting. If you do certificates, for your best speaker, best evaluator, best table topics, or whatever, things you need within your totes. So upon arrival to the club meetings, again, you want to get there early. We talked about this. They say, Toastmasters suggest at least 30 minutes. I'm around 45 or 50 minutes, sooner, because again, when you're doing a Zoom as well as an on-site, there's too many moving pieces, and we got to do our best to be prepared, right? Make sure that you arrange those tables and chairs, and obviously, during, COVID, it was very important that we each sat at our own table, and we had to arrange the room, as so. Get your lectern out. If you got your gavel, your club banner, the flag, the national flag, timing device, ballots, trophies, ribbons, all those things. Me as a sergeant of arms, when we have a Zoom meeting, as we do, I have to set the banner. I set the banner right behind our lectern, so that when, as I'm presenting right now at the lectern, our Zoomers do see the banners, as well as our in-room guests and members. It's also important, if you're, make sure there's a table or something near the door. Make sure that, there's the guest book is there. Make sure that you have different educational materials. We each get the Toastmasters magazines monthly. And if you're a member of more than one club, you're probably, you're getting multiple magazines. Those are great to have. Give those to the sergeant of arms, and he can set them out. He or she can set them out on the table. Those are just a great additional resources, to give potential members and guests. different newsletters, whatever you got. I mean, any type of promotional materials, just anything that you have, more, in my opinion, more the better, right? And make sure that the room temperature, is good for everyone. Guys, in the desert here, I mean, I was driving in my car today and it's at 118 degrees. Trying to get a happy medium with our temperature in these rooms can be difficult sometimes. So just be aware of that, because when you're up speaking, I mean, you don't want a room to be, 80 degrees and be up there sweating, and we don't want that. And then, you never get a happy medium. It's either too hot or too cold here, right? So it's always, great to, be able to monitor that. Make sure, ask the guest to, sign that guest book, mention it to the guest. Now, your VP of membership is going to be, at the beginning of the meeting near the door, to greet new guests. But it is our job as the Sergeant of Arms to be at the door towards the, right before the meeting starts. So if you have any late guests come in, we can assist them. I did include in the chat, guys, there is an item 84 for a guest book. Actually, I didn't have that. I can put that in the chat if you guys would like. I can find that on Toastmasters. You guys like me to put that in the chat? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that on. I'm going to go right here. So it's item 84. Okay. So there is a guest book that you can purchase. And actually, I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to share the Toastmasters website. You can actually purchase the guest book right from Toastmasters, here. It's like $10, but I mean, don't purchase it just alone. There's a lot of free items you can get, which we'll talk about later. But I will put this in the chat as well. Okay. So there's the guest book for the chat there. So we're going to go back to the slide here. Okay. So you now have the link to the guest book as well. So now we're going to talk about during the club meetings. I mentioned that a little earlier. You're going to be, the person sitting at the door welcoming those late arrivals. And a lot of the time when we're at restaurants, we're really not the ones coordinating the food. Usually we just order our own, and, we do separate checks. There are some clubs in the Valley, such as Bon Appetit. They actually have a predetermined menu that they have for the club, because they meet once a month, and usually they have 20 plus people at a meeting. So they have a predetermined menu with about 6 or 7 items on it only to make it easier on the restaurant. And so that's another thing that you could do. It's also your role, if you to collect the ballots and tally votes. If you don't have that role within the club, some clubs have a vote counter. So that, and that could be their role. And that's one less thing you would have to do as a Sergeant of Arms. And so, next, we're going to talk about after the club meeting. So, talk about putting the room back to its original specs. Leave it cleaner than it was. I mean, it's, we want to basically respect, the restaurants that have us. And, it's tough sometimes, if you have a small club, and so it's just best to make it look like you were never there. And so make sure that you return the room, to its original state. Make sure that you get rid of any garbage. Make sure that you pack up materials. Some of the restaurants, in the past have let us leave our stuff there. Just depends if there's a safe place to put it. If it's not out in the open, if they've got like a storage area. If not, you'll just have to haul it around. Now, there are duties also outside of the club meeting. it is your job as a sergeant of arms to make sure that you schedule the meeting location. And if it's a weekly club, make sure that you have things reserved. Make sure that you give your contact information to the management at the restaurant so that they can contact you if there's any issues prior. There's times when, I was not sergeant of arms, but we were bumped and we got to the meeting location and there were people there. So just make sure that you communicate with the restaurant your contact information. Also, it's your job to maintain all the club equipment and if during the virtual age we're in right now, you're going to have cords, you're going to have different microphones, laptop, you're going to have lights, we've got banner stands, your lectern. I mean, there's a lot of equipment, and again, it's a very important role, because if you don't show up to the meeting can't start. You have it all. And so make sure that you have adequate supplies, but if you can't make the meeting, make sure you plan ahead. And if you are the person hauling the equipment around, you've got to make sure that you hand that stuff off to somebody at the meeting, or again, that meeting is not going to happen. I mean, we're all Toastmasters, we can make it work, but it'd be a very bare, plain meeting, and we don't want that. Also, it's your job outside of the meetings to attend executive committee meetings. And we do have a job within the the executive committees as well. But before we get into that, I mentioned this prior, make sure that you prepare your successor, for, this office once your term is completed. And again, they can help you out. It's a great learning experience. I learn best by doing. I'm visual as well. And again, if you're going to be doing a hybrid meeting, you need to have somebody, you point them as a Zoom master, or you do the Zoom master, as I mentioned before. So that would be a great way to have somebody learn the role, and make sure hopefully they're a little technically savvy if you want them to be your Zoom master, because there's a lot to do with Zoom. And I mean, COVID has taught us a lot of new things. I mean, prior to COVID, I've been on Zoom meetings. I've never had to run Zoom meetings, let alone a hybrid Toastmasters meeting. Lots of trial and error. We finally, I think, perfected it. But I mean, there's a lot of work into it. And as Sergeant of Arms, I mean, you are instrumental within that. So next, we're going to talk about, within the executive committee, what your roles are as a Sergeant of Arms. Same thing as a meeting. I mean, it's, you've got to make sure that you arrange, the location of the meeting. If you're going to have it, at a different location, usually you're going to have it. We do ours once a month. Usually it's the second Saturday. In some clubs, they'll do it, before, a club meeting or afterwards. It just depends on the time, that everybody, has, and what's available, and what your club has decided, I take it back, what your committee has decided on in regards to your executive committees. Also, it is the work, or the responsibility of the Sergeant of Arms to work with the VP of Education, as well as a VP of Public Relations, to coordinate the meeting space. And again, if you're doing a hybrid, there's a lot of work that needs to be put in. As David had mentioned before, you need to set up the stage essentially. And if someone has a PowerPoint presentation, it is our job to make sure that that runs smoothly as well. And that means testing equipment. And that's where your Zoom master or your assistant comes in very, very, very handy. You're also the chair of the social and reception committee, because again, as the Sergeant of Arms, you have an instrumental role within, how, these things are planned. And then we're going to be talking about, items and resources here in a minute, but work with your secretary and treasurer, when it comes to ordering supplies and different items, stuff like that. And we'll talk about, some resources and there's a lot of free items. I don't know if you guys knew this, but on Toastmasters.org website, there are a lot of free resources that you can order for your club. And so when you are putting a club order in, why not order a lot of the free, pamphlets that you can order. And I'll show you guys that. I'll give you I will present the link, and I will also put the link in the chat a little later here. So now we're going to talk about, how we fulfill these responsibilities. And, we got a small group here, and it calls to, break out into teams, which we're not doing, of course. But as a new sergeant of arms, think about, something that, you feel is important for this duty. If you're new at it or something you want to change, let's just kind of discuss, some best practices. So I'm just going to open it up here, and let's just kind of talk, for the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to take some notes here because, I've been in Toastmasters for a bit. A lot of us have, and some of us are newer than others. So again, it's always great to hear from others, and it just kind of reaffirms, what we've learned throughout the years that I've learned, at least. But let's just discuss what we're going to do differently, how we're going to implement it. And then we can even talk about what resources are available out there, who's available to help. But what do Jack, what, have you been a sergeant? Have you been a sergeant of arms before? I think you mentioned
No,
you have been.
I've never held an executive position before.
Oh, you never have. Okay, great. Based off of what we've learned so far, do you your previous sergeant of arms, who ends their role on June 30th, have you sat down with the current sergeant of arms already?
Not yet, but I certainly plan to do that.
Okay.
That's one of the first things I'm going to do.
Great. Now, your clubs, you mentioned you're a member of a couple of clubs in Arizona.
No, I was at different times, not at the same time.
Gotcha. Now, are you a member of a club here in Southern Nevada now?
Yes, Summerlin Toasters.
Summerlin Toasters. Now, do you guys, are you guys virtual, or are you guys hybrid, or
right now we're virtual, and we've been discussing as to whether we're going to go hybrid or whether we're just going to go in person.
Okay. And so because they did meet in person before, of course. So,
yes.
So your current, the current sergeant of arms should have a tote of everything, that has your guest book, has your banners,
right.
all your forms. So get with them and figure out a time when you can, get all that information, all that stuff, and then just kind of get information from him. So, but what do you, so you're very new at the role, but David, what would you say? What are some things that you've done as a sergeant of arms?
You're pretty much the heartbeat of the club.
Mm-hmm.
How you coordinate, set up, plan is how the club's going to move.
Yeah.
If you don't if you don't plan properly, even down to some of the smallest, we had a pointer that has a laser, and it requires batteries. Mm-hmm. We have a PowerPoint presentation that you use a clicker to flip through your presentation. That has batteries. It's just the little things that you always have to plan. If you're running low on forms and you forget to make copies, now you're scrambling. And so those are the things that really come down to it is just the planning ahead, so that your club doesn't get handcuffed when it's, we've never been bumped. Well, I take that back. We've been bumped from our original location, but we always had a backup location. Yep. And so you're always planning, okay, what happens if this happens? Yep. And we've gotten down to where our club started 5 minutes and we had to scramble.
Yeah.
And so, but if you already know ahead of time what you're going to do, it just makes it easier for the club members to understand. And really, when they see that organization, that type, they realize, okay, I am with a good club that understands what the headaches could be.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned batteries. Same thing with like your, when you're doing a hybrid meeting, for instance, or a Zoom meeting like this, we utilize wireless mouse and keyboard, and
Yep.
you got to make sure you have batteries for that. I mean, it makes it very, very difficult. Um, Triana, what any ideas that you've learned from this course so far that you plan on taking back to your club?
We're such a really small, like there's only like 6 or 7 of us in there.
Hmm.
Um, but we have been talking about doing a hybrid because we do have a member that's actually in DC.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, wow.
so that will determine how we're going to continue or how we're going to continue. So if we're going to do hybrid, I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, but I am somewhat techie, so I can work myself around and whatnot. And my person who I'm replacing is been doing it a long time, and so I'm sure he'll be willing to help in and jump in to help.
Yeah.
Um, but for like the making it run smoothly, like having it planned out ahead of time and
Hmm.
having that backup plan will help. And for the most part, the group I'm in, I also work with one of the members. He's my boss, so we have that backup plan. So if
Okay.
where we have our meetings don't fall through, we go to the office. So
That's
it's
great.
kind of good. The group, I guess I would say the group I chose kind of are longtime Toastmasters, so learning from them and
And actually,
working.
you hit the nail on the head right there, because that was I was going to talk about resources like people can reach out to, right? And a lot of the people that are DTMs and been in Toastmasters for a long time, they've held every role. I mean, you don't just have to rely on your sergeant, your current one or the past one. I mean, most of everyone has held that role probably at some point if they've been in Toastmasters for a bit. So, um, but you're right. And actually, what you mentioned about having a backup, same thing. Like with the restaurant, if we got booked, we go to my office. My office is literally 5 minutes away from there. So we just prefer to do a dinner club because we want to go have dinner and all that. So, um, and then you talked about trying to put together a hybrid meeting. If the invite is out there, if you guys wanted to check out one of our meetings, we meet at every Wednesday at 6:30. We do a hybrid meeting, and if you wanted to come, check the meeting out, any of you guys, if you wanted to check the meeting out and join virtually, just kind of see how it looks from that standpoint, and then come to the restaurant. Well, right now we're in transition. We're going to be coming to my office, but yeah, we would come to my office as well and kind of see how it's ran that way, and it can give you ideas. We went through a lot of trial and error. I mean, a lot of tears, blood and tears, and sweat, and just trying to try different things. Trial by error, and I think we finally have it down. It took 6 months, but we finally got it down because as soon as these restaurants opened, we were one of the first ones back. I mean, I think in April we started right in April, where there's only 2 of us that went to the restaurant, and we just figured it out. So you've got a lot of great resources around you. So and so and that's where we're going to lead to next is who is out there to help you. Talk to the current person that's in the role right now, but any Toastmaster can help you. That if they've been around, or we're all here to help. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to help. We're here to all learn. We're here to improve our speaking abilities. And so what types of resources and materials can you use? There are a lot of different resources out there. I did include in the club chat, guys, the club leadership handbook. Did you see that there? And the club leadership handbook, I suggest printing that off. It has all of the explanations of the different club officer roles within that. In addition to Sergeant of Arms, it goes in even more detail than what we're talking about here, and it has everything. And what we'll do is, if we've got time after, I can go on the Toastmasters website and I can share that with you guys. We can go to the Toastmasters website. There's all kinds of material on there. There's also a lot of information on the District 115 website. Did you guys know that our district has its own Toastmasters website as well? And so what I'll do is I'll include that link in the chat bot. It has all of the events. It has, club contests, club that has area, district information. So I'm going to include that website within our chat here. Let's see here. Okay. Let's get that. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to share this. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing. And I will share the District 115 website. So we have, as a district, we have our own website as well. I mean, as you can see here, it has club officer training on here. You guys see Kristen, lots of great information, contact information. Obviously, Kristen is our outgoing district director. So if you wanted to send a message to the leadership, this is where you can go. And I will put this in the chat. Okay. So that was another great resource for you guys. And we'll get back to the presentation. So those are some great materials and resources that you can use. And obviously have your checklists. And and it's just that's in my tote I have my checklist, and I make sure that I've got everything before every meeting. And we've already and we've spoken about that numerous times throughout. Again, I learned by repetition. But again, there are several resources out there to help us as Sergeant of Arms. So kind of getting started, this is a checklist right here. The first thing that we have to do is attend district sponsored club officer training program. Kudos, we're here, we made it, we've done it. Read through the different materials that I've included on the chat. Go to the websites. And then we've got Toastmasters org website, which I'll share for our newest members. Triana, have you created your profile? I think we've lost somebody. So.
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. So I did include the Toastmaster org website. Meet with the outgoing Sergeant of Arms, as we mentioned before. Talk to them about their best practices, and you may want to add some of your own best practices in. Meet with the current executive committee. Explain to them or ask them what they need to make their jobs easier. And again, we talked about, before, introducing yourself to the meeting space contacts. Make sure that you exchange, phone numbers, and obviously ask for volunteers to assist you, especially if that time is limited. And again, there are many resources, and I've already included, all of the, a lot of these things within the chat here. And then I wanted to show you guys kind of where to go on the website about order. You guys want to see about where to order supplies and things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the Toastmasters, home page here. So when you go to Toastmasters.org website, you got to log in. Well, you don't need to log in to, browse, but in order to order anything, you're going to have to log in. But you just go over to shop. And, there's a lot of different types of products, but we're going to, click on, for the club. And I love getting free stuff here. So if just to kind of browse, you can sort from low to high. And as you can see, there are a lot of free, pamphlets and things that you can order for your club. And I mean, these are great, these are great resources and great tools to help us. And these are things that you even put on your table, at the entrance of your meeting. I mean, this stuff is all free. That's amazing. You got to pay shipping, but that's why maybe you order that stuff when, you are making that club order. I mean, there's a lot of other, you've got contest supplies when you're also responsible for making sure that, your club contest has, you have all the contest forms for your club contests. You can order your pins and badges. I mean, there's all kinds of just great, material here. You can shop specifically for your meetings. Supplies, for instance, this is where, you can order, the different, the certificates, or you can just print them up yourself. I mean, I didn't hear that from me. But there's just a lot of great resources on here where you can order, different items. Any questions on anything, guys? I mean, we're running out of time here. We're about wrapping up, but any questions, anything you want to add, or? Well, guys, if you could do me a favor, before you go, if you could put in the chat your name, your role, because I know in some rooms they're filling in if you're Sergeant of Arms, they might be singing in for president, and they maybe went to the original class. But all I need is your name, your role, and your club as well, please.
Yeah, we did that. I think we did that already.
You did that already in the original room.
Yes.
But we need it as a backup as well. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, and it just shows that you're still in the class, if that makes sense. So. But yeah, any questions on anything, guys? I mean, any tips or ideas or things that you've done or that you're going to want to try, or?
Mark, how do we go about giving you the information on our name, role, and club?
Oh, in the chat. So when you go into you've got on your, I'm going to stop sharing here. So on the bottom of your page, you got a chat button. You can also hit Alt-H.
You can hit chat, the chat button. Okay.
Yep. And then just click to everyone. and then just, you can put your name, your role, and then your club.
Okay. All right, I'll do that now.
I
I
appreciate it.
didn't get to do that in the beginning.
Okay, great.
in
Well,
the
then this is
meeting.
being recorded. So
Okay,
again, that's why we want to make sure we have a backup. So being very new Toastmaster and new to the role, it sounds like you're probably voluntold, huh? I mean, it's you'll have a lot of help, and just sit with your current sergeant of arms and just pick their pick their brain. And if you guys want, if you, I can put my email in the chat if you wanted to reach out to me and you wanted to see how a hybrid meeting worked. I can put my email in the chat if you guys want. Okay, so I'll put that here.
Mark, how often do you guys meet?
We meet weekly.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And right now we it's about half and half. At the meeting we usually will have 4 or 5, and then we have 7 or 8 on a given week on Zoom. So it just kind of depends on everyone's availability. And so yeah, we do it weekly. Some weeks are and the nice thing about doing weekly is you don't have to go every week if you've got other commitments. So, but as a sergeant of arms, you need to be there,
Right.
or you got to make sure that you have a backup. So, all right, guys. Well, that concludes our sergeant of arms training, and I hope you got something out of it. I mean, did you guys feel like you got something out of it, or?
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much, Mark.
Great. I mean, and again, you got my email if you've got any questions, even, run ideas or anything along those lines. I'm there for you guys. So, you'll do great on your new roles. And, for us who've been there and done that, we're always looking to improve too. So that's why we do these every 6 months, so it's, again,
Great.
I guess we learn by repetition. So, all right, guys, we'll see you in the, we'll see you back in the main room.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Bye,
Thanks.
guys. Yep. You don't leave the meeting yet, but go into the main room.
Okay.
Okay.
How do we do that?
On the bottom there, it just says leave room.
Yes. You just click on that?
Yep. That's it.